If you like this YouTube video, please consider liking,
sharing,
and subscribing.
Welcome back to Who Doesn't Have a Podcast. You are joined by me, Michael, and I'm joined by Jerome. Say hi, Jerome.
Hello, everyone. Jerome here.
You're auditioning for Eurovision or something. What was that all about?
Hi, everyone. Jerome here. Yeah. Do you know why? It's because I was going to say hi, Jerome, like I've been doing for most podcasts, and at the last minute, I bottled it and said something else.
You got in your head about it.
I got in my head about it. I threw it.
I'm also joined by Dan. Say hi, Dan.
Hi there, Dan here.
Right, Dan, we are going to jump straight in with another round of catching Dan up. Play the jingle.
Catching. Dan. Up, catching Dan up.
What we can say about that jingle is it is catchy. Okay, right. So to people who don't know, this is our sort of bi-weekly quiz in which Jerome and I have made up 3 things that have happened in Doctor Who since Dan stopped watching and snuck in one thing that has actually happened that Dan won't know about. So are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Dan, did this happen? Nardole, the companion played by Matt Lucas, was originally planned to be introduced as a talent show contestant on a futurised version of Britain's Got Talent. The judges panel was to include an android version of his real-life comedy partner David Walliams, whose circuits would malfunction mid-episode and go on a killing spree. Unfortunately, the plot was shelved due to David Walliams being fired from Britain's Got Talent in real life for calling a contestant.
Can I just point out as well, that is one. That is one option.
Oh,
Right.
God, I've missed this. Oh.
Dan,
yeah.
Did this happen? In a humorous scene as part of the Timeless Child retcon, it revealed that the gumologist, the water slide tester, and the traffic officer were alternate Time Lord names rejected by the Doctor.
Can I just say, your talents are wasted. This is just gold.
We should be writing actual comedy, not just doing this bullshit. Right, Dan, did this happen?
Okay.
In the Timeless Child retcon, it's heavily hinted that Peter Kay's Absorbaloff is a previous incarnation of the Doctor. And finally, Dan, did this happen? During press interviews post the 50th anniversary special, Moffat said his aim in reintroducing Gallifrey and the Doctor's quest to find Gallifrey was to set up the next 50 years of Doctor Who. Unfortunately, this new aim was cut very short just a few years later when Chibnall destroyed Gallifrey alongside all of the Time Lords all over again. Which one of those happened, Dan?
Well, I don't think the Doctor's going to be called the water slide test or whatever the hell it was called.
Are you sure?
Let's go over it again. In a humorous scene as part of the Timeless Child retcon, it revealed that the gumologist, the water slide tester, and the traffic officer were alternate Time Lord names rejected by the Doctor. Do you remember? I don't know if you've seen this bit, but when River Song is talking about the Doctor in one of the Matt Smith episodes,
yeah,
it's revealed in a sort of clever line of dialogue that the Doctor is a name that he chose for himself, and everybody else gets the word Doctor from the Doctor, which is a clever sort of time-spanning in-universe explanation as to why he's called the Doctor, and why we all see that as sort of a physician of healing. So do you think that would lose a little bit of its credibility if he was called the water slide tester? You know, if she said the water slide tester, we get that from him, you know.
But also,
it doesn't have the same.
But also the traffic officer.
No, but also think about it. The traffic officer. Have we ever, in an episode of Doctor Who, ever seen a parking ticket on the TARDIS?
No, and to be fair, during the Christmas special, the Doctor was parked on a pavement.
He was, yeah.
Honestly,
didn't see any fines being distributed in that episode. So
no, just a mysterious lack of double yellows across the universe.
So I'm gonna go with the one that sounds the most credible, unbelievably, and I'm gonna go with option number 4.
Before you do that,
yeah, go on, Mike. Sorry.
Let's circle back to the 2 others that we've got. just in case you change your mind.
Oh, okay.
So the first one that was Nardole, the companion played by Matt Lucas, was going to be introduced as a talent show contestant on a futurized version of Britain's Got Talent. And the panel was to include an android version of his real-life comedy partner, David Walliams, whose circuits would malfunction mid-episode and go on a killing spree. So they had to shelve that because he actually got fired from Britain's Got Talent in real life for calling a contestant. Sure, it's all right, because you could see that happening, couldn't you? Because it's bad optics.
It's oh,
I
mean, Torchwood, yeah. I could see an android David Tennant calling David Williams calling everyone. It's just the theme of the show, really.
But I think it is important to note that David Williams doesn't call any in the episode or the planned episode. It was external real life factors where that happened, and then unfortunately the BBC decided that they'd have to pull the plot line.
Can I just say as well, with the other one,
but he got Little Britain instead, so
there's a lot of comedy vibes going on here as well. You got Matt Lucas, David Williams, Peter Kay. You know, they might be trying to give you a sign here, Dan.
But then I also don't think the Absorbaloff was what relates to the Doctor.
But the Absorbaloff has a great power. I mean, we may laugh at the episode, but in terms of, it's a bit like Clayface in the Batman series. You can sort of become anyone. So technically, you could take any iteration of the Doctor, putting that on. And
you won't have seen it. It was you know, obviously I don't want to give anything away. But it's like an Easter egg. So in the Timeless Child episode, they show.
Say that looking at me, Mike.
They show.
Say it. Look in my eyes and tell me this isn't bullshit.
No. They show all of these faces. So do you remember? I don't know if you know this. In the classic series, there was a bunch of faces called the. Do you know what they are, Duran? They're called the something doctors. It's like a classic thing. No,
sorry, I was.
They were like.
It's almost like it doesn't exist.
No. But wait.
Yeah,
in the classic series, there's like 5 actors that have apparently played the Doctor. They appear on a TV screen or something, and it's 5
the brain of Morbius.
The brain of Morbius Doctors. So the Morbius Doctors are 5, or a handful of people who have been incarnations of the Doctor who the audience hasn't seen. So in the Timeless Child, what they do is they show a bunch of different faces and different versions of the Doctor, including these brain of Morbius. So making that canon because it was always a bit of a problem.
The water slide tester, the traffic officer.
The traffic officer.
They all appear. Yeah.
And as part of that, they sneak in a little Peter Kay Absorbaloff as kind of like a hey, hey you guys to the audience, that kind of thing.
Dan has never enjoyed a jelly baby as much as he has in his life, knowing that where he's just look at the confidence.
I think it's the sweet taste of victory that I'm about to pull out of the bag. Quite literally in this one, boys.
I think the mistake that I've made here is I've made 3 of them incredibly unbelievable to make myself laugh, and then actually snuck in something that is actually quite believable.
All I know is...
Sorry, before we carry on. So
we are
the Absorbaloff thing, do you say that was classic Doctor Who? Or more recent?
No, sorry, I've confused you. It's more recent. The Absorbaloff thing is more recent, as in he is shown on like a screen of previous Doctors that the Doctor doesn't know about because she's had her memory wiped, and the Absorbaloff's face pops up as a kind of little.
Dan, also, have you learned nothing from these last few quizzes? You're going for the one that you appear to think is credible. And looking at the previous questions me and Mike have answered, do you not think this is the double bluff we'd pull? I mean, let's just look at what you're about to pick. You've just put, Moffat said his aim in reintroducing Gallifrey and the Doctor's quest to find it was to set up the next 50 years of Doctor Who, to which Chris Chibnall just destroyed it, got rid of it. 50 years of working in the making, and they're just going to cut all of that short and not kind of take on any form of heritage or history and fly with it. I will come back to this, Michael.
I have starred in enough episodes of Who Doesn't Have a Podcast to hear your conversations about the Chibnall era and know that he took a machine gun to the entire plot. So I'm going to lock in as my final ballsy answer. Option number 4, Chris Chibnall destroying the legacy of Stephen Moffat.
So you're saying Russell T Davies reintroduced Doctor Who, and his big swing was that Gallifrey no longer existed and the Doctor was the last of the Time Lords.
Yeah.
Moffat, in the 50th anniversary then, brought Gallifrey back and said, the next 50 years will be about the Doctor finding Gallifrey, only for around 7 years later, Chris Chibnall just decided to blow it up again for no reason. Yeah? Okay.
Is that what you're saying, Dan?
If this is wrong, then I'm going to be dumbfounded.
The answer to this week's Catching Up Dan quiz is Nardole, the companion played by Matt Lucas, was originally planned to be introduced as a talent show. I'm only joking. It is, it's Chris Chibnall just blew up Gallifrey again, which I always found a little bit annoying because, spoiler alert, Dan. But the 50th was all about bringing Gallifrey back, and then literally 6 to 7 years later, they just destroy it again. I always found that a little bit.
So did Chibnall do that just to kind of create a bit more drama and to kind of like throw an unexpected plot twist into the Doctor Who kind of folklore, or was it just him going, I have no idea what I'm doing, let's just hit the fuck button?
Mike?
What happens in the Timeless Child thing is there's all this Timeless Child thing where the Doctor isn't the Doctor anymore, which I don't particularly mind. That the Doctor isn't a Time Lord. I think that's fine. I think the show needs to like move on and it's sort of like can adapt. And as we've seen, Russell T Davies is making really clever decisions with that retcon,
I think
which we'll talk about in a bit. But I was mid-sentence. But there is, as part of it, the Master, such as the one's Master, kills all of the Time Lords. He kills them all. And he invites the Doctor to Gallifrey to see that it's been decimated. And I always thought that was a little bit odd for two reasons. One, why do that again? Why destroy Gallifrey again? I thought it was quite a big deal getting it back in the 50th. And two, you meaning to tell me that the Master did that all by himself? I find that a little bit, I don't know. Sorry, Jerome, what were you going to say?
Thanks, I'm at the start of my sentence. So, no, I was just going to say...
Much longer. Let's move on.
No, I was going to say, the good thing that does come out of this, I suppose, is because there was such a quick turnaround in the main TV series in terms of ideas and just things happening and exposition and characters going, this is now a thing. It does allow for Big Finish to explain a lot of that. So like it's like different mediums like Big Finish, and maybe if there are spin-offs, then perhaps they can sort of explore how these things came to be. But it all feels like that would be reactive rather than before thinking. Do you know what I mean? Like set up thinking. It felt a little bit at the time like it maybe wasn't that. But you know, you can retcon, you can revive, you can expand on it. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how they go with it.
Yeah. I think we've already seen in terms of the Timeless Child thing, we've already seen a bit of Russell T Davies's plan where they brought it up in Wild Blue Yonder, didn't they? That was a big plot point of Wild Blue Yonder, that he doesn't know where he's from. And I thought they did that really well to play it with the emotion. And I know in the new series, we might cover this in news later, but in the new series, a big plot line, a big crux of it is that Ruby Sunday's an orphan and the Doctor actually doesn't know where he's from. So they've got like a connection as a Doctor companion duo that we haven't really seen before. Well done, Dan. You're now ahead. Can't remember what the scores are. Doesn't matter. But you are winning. Let's move on to some Who News or Who News. Play the jingle.
Who news? Who's news? Who's the news? Who's news?
So essentially, Russell T Davies has come out and said Jinx Monsoon's Maestro is similar in name only. So I know that we spoke about this last week. I just thought it was interesting that he confirmed that the Maestro is not the Master. Apparently, the Maestro is going to be, as we predicted, sort of a toy maker level god, sort of godlike fantasy, new villain. But yeah, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on this because personally, I'm quite pleased with this. If we're taking it at face value, I think it probably is too soon to see the Master again. Dan, you won't know this, but there was only a couple of episodes, I think, between when we last saw Missy and when we were introduced to Sacha Dhawan's Master. So it all felt a little bit the Master again. So yeah, so I think it's probably a good shout if he's being honest.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Doctor Who's always prided itself on reintroducing old foes or creating new ones. And I think even as an outsider, you still hear about the Master coming back and everything else, and you still think, sure, there's other ideas to play with here. So the fact that the Maestro is coming along and we're yet to see kind of what they're going to be capable of.
There's the Maestro there on your screen if you're watching this.
There they are. Yeah, I think it's exciting.
Oh, no, shit, that's the water slide tester.
No, that's the parking attendant, because you can tell.
Guys, it's clearly the gemologist. Come on.
That's the
amateurs.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. If the show's getting a reboot, it deserves to rest. And I think it got to the same. I mean, I'm sure you two will agree. It was probably the same at the point with the Daleks and with the Cybermen, like two like the better known foes of the Doctor, that just kept being killed off and then somehow miraculously came back. Then were killed off again and somehow came back. It gets tiresome very fast. And I think as a viewer and as a fan, you want some fresh material or something like fresh characters on screen. And I think with Russell T Davies doing that, it's going to go a long way.
Well, I think as well, it just feels a little bit like, I think this is maybe one of my problems with the whole Timeless Child arc, was that with the Doctor and, like you say, Dan, the repetitive nature of villains and foes that you come up against, when you see them get beat time and time and time and time again, they just lose all threat. And I think it kind of makes the Doctor appear like this sort of superhero, which, don't get me wrong, like has its merits, but it's a little bit, especially like in a world with Marvel and DC and the golden age of superheroes, it's a little bit exhausting. I don't necessarily want the character to be a superhero. I want them to like introduce me to like new worlds and elements and explore it. Like, I like the Doctors that are like explorers rather than heroes. They've all got hero qualities, but there's like exploration. So I think it's time for new villains and just new worlds and new threats and things that kind of actually challenge the lead character, that make them think and go, how am I going to deal with this? I've never come up against this before. How am I going to work this? I think it will be more interesting. Obviously, the Daleks and the Master and the Cybermen will come back because they're popular, and they should come back because they're brilliant characters and villains.
I think most of these, including the Master, are coming back in spin-offs, because we know. I mean, the Master has been specifically set up. He's apparently trapped in the Toymaker's tooth. The Toymaker's tooth was sort of fell out of his mouth when he disappeared or whatever. And then someone with nail polish picked up that tooth, which is an interesting callback to, is it The Sound of Drums? Or at the end of that two-parter, because pretty much the exact same thing happened. So why set that up if you're not going to pay that off? They will pay it off. I just think they're going to pay it off outside of the main show.
And also, I can't stop thinking about the fact that Russell said they really want to move towards fantasy and like the god elements and like the Toymaker characters, the Maestro characters, like all of these different entities. I feel like they're really wanting to play with that for a while. So yeah, it'd be interesting. Or like mythical creatures. It's like the interesting episode with the Minotaur in the hotel. Can't remember the name of it, but it was a Matt Smith episode. And
no joke. And this isn't another quiz question, Dan, but David Walliams is in that episode.
He is in that, yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
Does he play the Minotaur?
No, he plays like a really like weepish kind of like scared. I can't remember what he's half human, half like mouse. It's a strange one. But I'll always like there was that moment in that episode, wasn't there, where Matt Smith opens door number 11 and kind of looks and goes, oh, it couldn't be anything else, and then shuts it. And it's never referred to again, ever. Like it's really like left to the imagination. And I'm wondering if they will start to play with more of that stuff, the mythical, the kind of like the fantastical elements of like, because there's been so many theories of the internet. I've watched so many videos where it's like, what did Matt Smith's Doctor see in that door? It's never been answered. And I think that's quite exciting.
Me. They always do this pretty much.
Do you think they didn't answer it? Sorry, do you think they didn't answer it because they didn't know, or do you think it was always the point to just leave it completely open to like allow people to theorize?
I think it was always the point. But it just frustrates me a little bit sometimes, because I think you know, in my perfect little rigid mind of what a Doctor Who tenure should be, if I were showrunner, I'd like to think that everything I set up I would like to pay off in some way. So another example is Russell T Davies. I know it was towards the end, and deliberately towards the end, you know, where the 10th Doctor is facing down Rassilon and the Master, you know, during the end of time part 2. And there's the woman who's heavily implied as the Doctor's mother. People still talk about that to this day, and it was always deliberately supposed to be ambiguous.
Is it Anita Dobson? Who is Anita Dobson? We demand to know, who is Anita Dobson?
But can you imagine if that doesn't get paid off? Or can you imagine if the fact that Susan Twist has appeared in like 3 episodes haven't finished?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Susan Twist appeared.
Totally agree, Mike.
Okay. Yeah. So
I've also just found the picture of David Walliams' character. Sorry, it's the first time I've seen it. Sorry for the people that are listening. That is absolutely Horrifying.
You'd have to anyone listening, do see if you can just quickly open the video on YouTube to see what Dan's shown here. But it is, if you haven't seen it, it does look like David Walliams, but it also doesn't in a very, very strange way. Yeah.
So he played the character of Gibbis in the Doctor Who story, The God Complex.
The God.
And he is basically part David Walliams, part rat's testicle. I mean, it's one for the CV.
There goes the PG rating for this episode of the podcast. Although that might have
says the man that's dropped the C-bomb within the first 2 minutes.
Right, quickly moving on.
Okay.
Now, I think this is really interesting. Ncuti Gatwa's come out and said that he's going to be around in Doctor Who for a while, and he said similar things to this before. I don't know if you remember, but a few podcasts back, we were talking about how Ncuti Gatwa has been cast as the lead in a new sort of BBC drama, I think. Have I got that right, Jerome? I think that was you and I talking about that.
Well, interestingly, yeah, I think you are right about that. But also, he has just been cast as character's name's gone right out of my head, but in The Importance of Being Earnest at the National.
Yeah.
Yes, he has.
Jack. What's his name? Anyway, the character of Jack in Ernest. I believe he's playing him. It's interesting because with the new spin-offs that are coming in, and Ncuti talking about him being around for a while, is this the way the dynamic of the show is going to change in terms of spin-offs will fill that gap for like filming schedules and things, so that actors who are maybe in the show can stay around for a longer time because they've got that break to do other things while this goes on? It'd be interesting to know, because realistically most doctors stay about 3 full seasons on average. Some have gone further, some have gone less, but on average that seems to be the rule. The only real exceptions to that are Tom Baker, who was there for like 7 years, and David Tennant, I suppose, having done it twice and stayed on for a bit longer.
He loves it, doesn't he?
He absolutely bloody loves it. And
it's interesting because it's interesting that you brought that, Jerome, because that is essentially what I wanted to talk about. So Ncuti Gatwa has been cast in this play. He's also doing this BBC drama. Millie Gibson, in this news story here, has said that she can see Ruby Sunday being around for years to come. But literally 30 minutes before we started this podcast, it was announced that she's been cast in a new period drama from the team who make Poldark, which is interesting. And I guess what I wanted to ask you both was, can you remember in recent years in Doctor Who, the way that I've always understood it is it's really time consuming. I can't remember Jodie Whittaker going off and doing other things during the time. So I wonder if the fact that they've taken this time to get their house in order, and it's a big production effort, and we know that they're working pretty much on series 3 of this new era now. So they're really, really full steam ahead. Have they bought themselves time? Essentially, do you think that's what's happened?
Most likely, because you look at what came out. Because I know we mentioned the podcast a few months ago as well. Was that they'd already finished work all there and thereabouts on season 2. So it's the first time I've never known them film in bulk for such a that's almost future-proofing themselves. And if you also look at the episodes as well, we've gone from 13 episode season to 8, not including like the Christmas special as well. So they are short seasons, and if they're going down all these bigger budget things, it's going to be less kind of location or maybe set driven. So you've got a lot of green screen, which is going to speed up production time as well. So maybe what we're seeing now is some kind of agreement where amongst the stars and the show, you can, if you power through 2 seasons worth of episodes and filming, it's going to take however long. The reward for that is you can have the break that maybe other doctors didn't get, and can kind of diversify yourself as an actor with stuff like Poldark, National Theatre, and then by the time you come back into it, you don't get that long-term fatigue that we've maybe seen Jodie Whittaker, David Tennant, Peter Capaldi all kind of suffer from, of doing the show time and time again for the amount of time it took. There'll be that love and passion for it that they'll always be allowed to kind of give themselves that rest time to kind of fall back into love with the show and satisfy that as well. It's completely new and interesting.
And I forgot to add it to our little news thing, but I mean, Russell T Davies has come out and Millie Gibson's come out and explicitly said that all of those rumours of Millie Gibson being fired from the show, as we discussed, are bullshit. And we knew they were going to be bullshit. We knew it was sort of sensationalized media running away with any old story, a little bit sexist. But yeah, the second series of this new era of Doctor Who is going to have 2 companions, of which Millie Gibson is one. So the fact is, maybe these actors can now go off and do other things.
Which, like,
yeah.
Did it again, didn't we? The
Unbelievable.
Great for editing.
Unbelievable.
It's great for editing.
It's just excitement. It's all it is. It's all about passion. But what I was going to say was the multiple companions thing isn't a surprise, and yet everyone's acting like it's crazy. Do you know what I mean? Like it's loads of Doctors. There's been so many, like even in the classic series and stuff, like not Colin Baker, David Tennant's stepdad,
Pete Davidson.
Peter Davidson. He
I think that gets you another point in the quiz, Dan. That wasn't an official quiz.
I'm just enjoying this pride that Jerome forgot something about Doctor Who that I knew, which is
You're right, Mike. This is going to be some rich fucking editing session. Anyway, no, but he had like
on
4
my
companions.
birthday.
He had
You only
like
turned 30 once, boys.
time travel. But yeah, he had like 4 companions like at once and stuff. And I also think like Dan was saying, like Disney are really like laying down a marker here, I think, with the whole like 8 episodes a serial thing. And also I think there's going to be so many cast additions, and also now we know the Doctors can sort of turn up whenever. So like I don't think this will happen, but in theory you could just go, shoot, he's not here, let's give a series to David Tennant, or Matt Smith come back for a series. Do you know what I mean? And maybe it's like slightly off keel in terms of the timeline and stuff, but they've opened so many doors in terms of how or whose story they follow. I think that's the thing in terms of who they choose to follow, that I think it does allow actors maybe a flexibility they did not previously have. However, I think like they've got to be careful, I think, on the other side as well, because I think like you do need that main arc. You do need that main story. You need that kind of main thing that everyone else feels often around. Because sometimes I think like you look at the only sort of comparable you've got is Marvel in terms of like with a main story and like offshoots all over the place. And you do find that like once the storytelling or once a particular story ends, or the quality of that story ends, you are relying on the offshoots to kind of pick up. And if they're not strong, or if they're kind of sort of going in different directions, you can lose a lot of viewers that way. I'm not saying they will, because I think Doctor Who does have, like, there's so much history to it, so much going on. And it is maybe different to Marvel in the sense of Marvel's very much looking at a demographic of a particular age and bracket of fan, whereas Doctor Who is like, it's such a family show. Like literally, you could be 80 and enjoy it. You could be 7 and enjoy it. Like I think that it is different in that sense. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see where it goes. But I think Shooty probably will be around for a bit. To be honest with you,
well, I'm hoping so. Yeah. Because one of my main criticisms in recent years as Doctor Who is it's quite hard to sort of have substantial storylines that get people invested and pay off when you're changing your actors all the time. And you know, I mean, I think Jodie Whittaker was around for 3 years, but it's real blink and you miss it. Like time flies so fast. I remember when she was announced as being the Doctor. I don't know if you guys remember. They filmed this really pretty sweet like promo, like releasing her as the Doctor, and then realistically, 3 years goes by like that, and then it's the end, and she's passing over to David Tennant again, and I think you need another long stint for people to really sink their teeth into and really get into. So I think you need companions to stick around, and you need main actors, the Doctor, to stick around for. I'd say 5 years.
Do you think, on occasions, Doctors have been forced out? Not necessarily by the company or BBC or anything, but just like by fan pressure or just feeling, or do you think that they kind of just wear out, they're burnt out because of the scheduling and so much commitment and all of these things, they want to go off and do other things? Do you feel like, because obviously like the one we would all turn to is Christopher Eccleston, obviously with all the stuff that has come out in like, you know, the recent years and stuff, but just in general, like, because I know Peter Capaldi, there's always been rumors around him that have been a bit interesting, just in terms of like where he thought the show was going and stuff. And by the way, there's absolutely no credence to that at all, in the sense of these are all rumors. There's rumor mill.
Are you making them up right here, right now?
I'm just making them up. Hang on, I'll tell you what. Let me text Peter.
When you say that there's always been these rumors, are you just making it up now?
I think you're not wrong though, because you look at, I know we mentioned the filming schedules before, but it's a hell of a long time. Like they are like full big on days, and you could see obviously. You could see some people maybe walking away from it. You could see maybe people that gained or garnered a lot of success from the role of Doctor Who that maybe didn't want to miss out too much in their careers and didn't want to be typecast. But I think maybe for the more recent Doctors, as you hit the nail on the head, Jerome, is that they've maybe had to try and justify the show itself and some of the decisions that have been made and the writing, and because it has been on this turbulent kind of journey in the last couple of years. And I think if you are at the front of that show, you're going to get a lot of flack for maybe decisions or things that maybe have are nothing to do with you. You're literally having to ride out the storm of other people's actions. So sometimes people maybe just get a bit sick to death of that as well. I'd hate to think that anyone that's playing the Doctor would never want to carry on playing the Doctor. And you kind of feel that a lot of these actors, particularly in the most recent years, have loved that job. They've cherished it so much, and they've really appreciated being in that position.
Also, it's also a very pressurized role. Do you know what I mean? It's an iconic role, and it's the same with like the whole James Bond thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's always this thing of who's going to be the next James Bond. Who? Do you know what I mean? Like how what the role demands of you, as well. And I can't imagine as well, like just the faith you must have to have in yourself to be like, I am good enough, I will be good enough, I will bring my own thing to it, because everyone's expecting you to be so different from the person you've taken over from, and that has got to be an incredible pressure that, you know, like I don't think anyone, unless you do it, you've no idea what that's like. Do you know what I mean? And it sounds like, as well, to be fair, like it's a very supportive group. Like Shooty's been on loads of radio stations, hasn't he? And he's been talking about the WhatsApp group that all the doctors have and stuff, and just like that passing of the mantle.
Is David Tennant in it twice? Does he have like 2 numbers?
Yeah, I think so. And it's like, and he doesn't actually talk to his other self, 10 and 14, just like it's too awkward.
Or actually, days and days go by where it's just him talking to himself, and no one else is contributing their life. In answer to your question there, Jerome, I think the one that, in terms of being forced out, that stands out the most is probably Sylvester McCoy, because obviously when it came back as a movie, and it had that American co-financing, I imagine, I don't know, maybe Sylvester McCoy wanted to still be the Doctor, but they wrote it into the script that he'd regenerate within which actually I think is a really good idea, and he got Paul McGann out of it. But
what was interesting about that actually is that they were just going to say that Paul McGann was coming along anyway, but it was Sylvester McCoy, and I think this has got a lot of love for him from the fans. Is that he requested, he went to the BBC and he went to BBC America, and he was like, no, I have to do it. I have to. He was like, even if it's a TV movie, even if it's going off in a completely different realm, he was like, there needs to be a sense of completion. Like you need to see my Doctor regenerate into the next one, because that's what's happened since the first one. It's like you have to have that, and I do think that's what we missed. I do think the show was hindered for a while when you didn't see John Hurt's War Doctor regenerate into Christopher Eccleston. Obviously, they did kind of do it. You know, they kind of cheated it. Like eventually,
I was hoping Christopher Eccleston was going to appear. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think we all were, but it was
sat around thinking, at least give us the scene, like get him back, like just the scene of him like having his regeneration moment would have been amazing.
Yeah, and I think you know, and they gave us what they could, but I think like it did hinder it for a while. It was a bit weird, you know what I mean, to like come in 2005, and it kind of worked because of the break, because there had been this break. It kind of worked, but it was difficult. But then, you know, it was interesting how they did give Paul McGann that moment where he did regenerate into John Hurt. Although you only, you know, I can imagine seeing this in a script where they just go, John Hurt appears in a chalice for about 3 seconds, but it happens.
I totally forgot about the transition from Paul McGann to Christopher Eccleston, actually, in terms of those 2 Doctors being, you know, in terms of TV, like, you know, one after another, because I wonder if anyone ever, when they were reviving the 2005 series, the impression I've got is that they didn't consider Paul McGann to carry on with the role of the Doctor at all, did they? Mm-hmm. So in terms of anyone who was just replaced, probably Paul McGann. Which
I do get. I do get, like, they just wanted a fresh start. I do understand why they went with that decision. But it was, But I mean, I'd like to know, on a slightly separate tangent, when they came up with the idea for John Hurt. I'd like to know, because I think, like, for the longest...
I know this.
Oh, go on.
I do actually know this. So the original plan for the 50th was to include Christopher Eccleston. Christopher Eccleston was going to be John Hurt's Doctor, kind of.
Yeah.
It was going to be explained that it was the 9th Doctor that did all of the things that John Hurt's Doctor had to do. Stephen Moffat met with Christopher Eccleston, apparently got really close, really close to getting him to sign up, but then eventually Christopher Eccleston turned it down because he didn't like the script that much, which is mad because it's one of the best scripts, I think, in Doctor Who history. But yeah, essentially at the end of that Matt Smith finale, when he's in his own timeline and John Smith turns around, that was originally going to be the 9th Doctor. Yeah.
Wow.
It's so strange, isn't it, with the whole Christopher Eccleston? I know we've talked about it before, but just like it's just the whole thing is so strange. Like, because obviously there's a problem there, and there's well documented now. But like, yeah, being really close to coming back, and then not liking the script. And was it really the script? Was it not? Was it everything else that was good? It's a strange one. But if he doesn't come back, his series was still very good, and we'll always love it. And he gave us that. Do you know what I mean?
All-time classic.
That's it.
Christopher Eccleston is actually a really good segue into sort of the final thing I wanted to talk about, which is
sackings.
Yeah, sack Julie Gardner, sack Rusty Davis, sack Phil Collinson, and sack Dan, Jerome, and Mike.
Mike, I literally thought someone was about to join us there. I wasn't ready for that. It turned out to be screen. I was like, is Christopher Eccleston just coming on live? Because you haven't pre-warned us.
Well, it's an interview special, Chris Eccleston. Yeah. And
wait, let me get my notepad.
Do you love me? This image has set the Whoniverse on fire. Dan, you sent it over in our group chat.
Yeah.
But essentially, the rumor has it that this is a leaked Disney trailer, and it does have some text in there saying like 1 week to go or something. So it's obviously something that's supposed to be, or it says next Friday, so it's supposed to be the week before. It's a Disney Plus trailer specifically, and there's this shot which we have seen in other trailers, but apparently the background for the TARDIS is different. So before we talk about that, because I'm not sure what implications that has, I thought it was interesting to just look at the costume that Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor is wearing here, because to me it looked very like Christopher Eccleston-esque. But then I went back and looked at some pictures of Christopher Eccleston's outfit, and he never really wears a white t-shirt. He always wears it's kind of like a purple t-shirt with the black coat. So I don't know, when I first saw it I thought, why is he dressed up like Christopher Eccleston? But maybe, I don't know if you guys agree, but it just looked quite similar.
I think Ncuti is just going to be one of the most fashionable Doctors ever. And I think I've seen enough in the trailers with him with enough outfits to suggest that I think it's very much him, firstly. I think it's his personality. But I think it's just going to be a Doctor that is very like expressive and kind of bold and sort of unique. I think this Doctor is going to be really unique in terms of their style, in terms of their attitude, in terms of the way they go about saving the universe. I think that's good. I think it's really good.
Yeah. So the main thing about this image is apparently the background to the TARDIS is the memory TARDIS. Now, I don't know much about this, but the first spin-off that they've done in this new era of Doctor Who is Tales of the TARDIS, and apparently in one of those episodes, it's explained that this version of the TARDIS is what's called a memory TARDIS, and it allows previous Doctors and previous companions to come back and, from what I've seen, have a chit-chat. But I don't know if you guys saw Tales of the TARDIS or know anything more about this. I personally don't. But apparently people have gone crazy because they reckon that Disney have forgot to edit this, and it's a massive spoiler. But personally, I think maybe we all know these backgrounds are CGI anyway, if they just accidentally put the wrong CGI background in.
I feel like I think there's a strong chance that it maybe has been put out there completely by mistake. But again, this memory TARDIS, did you say that's appeared in Doctor Who before? So
it appears in a new spin-off called Tales of the TARDIS. So when they released the anniversary specials, Russell T Davies announced this Tales of the TARDIS, which is a homage, I guess, to classic Doctor Who. And they brought back, who did they bring back, Jerome? They brought back Peter Davison, Colin Baker.
Sylvester McCoy with Ace, and I think it might have just been those three.
And what they do is they meet in a TARDIS. They wake up in a TARDIS with the same background. So it's called the memory TARDIS, the same background that you see here. And it's the companion and the Doctor, or maybe sometimes there's two companions. And what are you both smirking at?
It's just Jerome knowing full well that every time he interrupts, you're getting a little bit more of a twitch in your eye.
and they have they play the old episode and they talk about the old episode. So
cool.
So it's nice to know you're keeping up with the latest Doctor Who news done.
Sorry, I'm trying to learn. So sorry. So I didn't realise it was an elitist club. This.
It was just a big deal when it was announced. That's all. And so they've
clearly. No, but that's so. From the sounds of things, they're going to turn this into like a full episode type of thing for the series.
So he had said, Russell T Davies said that the spin-off has bigger implications than what it may appear seem, because at the start it just seemed like, oh, this is a fun 60th anniversary homage to previous episodes. But Russell T Davies has said it's more linked than you think. So when this is announced and you've got the memory TARDIS in the background, people are thinking, okay, what's going on here? And he has said, Russell T Davies has said, that there are, in the 60th anniversary special where Ncuti Gatwa clones the TARDIS and this new TARDIS pops out, and Russell T Davies said that he expected people to say, well, that's not the real TARDIS. Apparently something is happening in this series which explains all of that, and maybe this is tied into it. I don't know.
There is the TARDIS with the flowers and the kind of stone marble growing out of it, isn't there? I think in one of the original trailers. That might have something to do with it, possibly. But
actually, the little logo that they released for Empire of Death, which is the finale of the new series, features the TARDIS heavily. It's just the TARDIS. So I think the TARDIS is going to have a huge role in this new series in a really interesting way. I wonder if this is all part of it. I think there might be something wrong with the TARDIS. But there we go. So I don't know what you guys think. I'm torn between thinking, is this a mistake? Have they just put the wrong background in, or have they accidentally leaked something?
I can't think this is a mistake. There are so many people at Disney and the BBC who will monitor this. It will just be their job to put this stuff out with I can't. I feel like it's more likely they've done this as a ruse, or something to kind of throw people on purpose, or to make people go a certain way. I mean, don't get me wrong. It could be a mistake, but I would find it so bizarre if that were the case. I really do. I find it hard to believe it would be a mistake, personally. I think it's all media. Do you know what I mean? Coverage around it. I just don't. Sorry, Dan, go on.
So towards like the end of the original run of Avengers, obviously the Endgame and the other one, they put out in the trailers a lot of clips or scenes that were never in the final film. So do you think this could be a similar kind of thing for Doctor Who, where we're kind of seeing things that maybe won't be, again, like a bit of a ruse to kind of like...
I don't know. What I don't understand about
Doctor Ruse.
Doctor Ruse.
Well, I agree with you, Dan. I think these days in film, TV, trailers always have doctored images. So think about the famous bit from the 60th anniversary special trailer where Ncuti Gatwa appears, but the background was fake and different because Russell T Davies said it's too much of a spoiler. The thing is about this image here is if that is the memory TARDIS in the background, and if that is a massive spoiler, I don't understand why it's a big spoiler. I don't think it has that too big. We know the TARDIS changes. I don't get it. I don't. But the Whoniverse, the fandom, is like blown up. Everyone's like, this is huge, but I don't understand why.
Dan, the big question I think both me and Mike have, although Mike may have a bigger question than this big question. Obviously, you've not seen Capaldi and you've not seen Whittaker in full. Are you even going to watch Gatwa?
I will still watch it with Ncuti Gatwa, but I think that's just because, unlike the previous generations, or iterations of the Doctor, particularly recently, you've got Russell T Davies back, and he's at the helm for a full series. So, being the ever creative and brilliant talent that he is, he'll do it justice. And so will Ncuti.
You wearing trousers?
Huh? No shorts.
Look like you wear...
No shorts. No, I'm balls to the breeze in this podcast.
Shorts for
got the sexual tension with my sonic
on,
screwdriver.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Who Doesn't Have a Podcast.
Oh, is that how we're ending it? We can't end it on that. For God's sake, man.
I've got nothing else to talk about. Next episode, we will be talking. We're going to be talking.
Chris is gone, Jerome. He's long gone.
2 weeks' time, we'll be talking about Space
Eurovision.
Babies.
Space Babies. When is it? When is the first episode, Michael?
Yeah, when is Space Babies?
Bloody hell.
When are the first?
Oh no, wait! It comes. Doesn't it release the same night as Eurovision or the same weekend?
I think it is. Yeah, I think it's the 11th of May. So it returns to BBC One and iPlayer and Disney Plus on the 11th of May. So I think it actually drops at midnight on the 11th of May. So and then it airs that Saturday night on BBC One. So there has been a bit of controversy about when it's dropping because it's dropping in America at the same time, but that'll be, I think, around 7 p.m. for them. It's going to be midnight for us. So there's, we're being shafted a bit. But for the next time we talk, we will have 2 episodes to review: Space Babies and the Beatles episode, I believe. So yeah, that's going to be really exciting.
And most importantly of all, we will know if our predictions were bang on the money or total horseshit? And I'm banking on the former because we've got great minds here. We've got great Doctor Who fans, and I've lost my trail of thought. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe.
If you like this YouTube video, please consider liking,
Sharing.
And subscribing.